Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I just came across this article today from BBC Science Focus that has me thinking that the Nephite civilization may have been found. This article is called Simply Astonishing. Experts just found a massive lost civilization hiding in the Amazon. So this has to do with South America. I know that there's the two camps when it comes to Book of Mormon geography. I'm not really in either one of those camps. I have put together a spreadsheet for Book of Mormon geography because we have come across a lot of quotes where we're actually focused on something else, but they talk about Book of Mormon geography. And so I decided I should probably capture those, put them on their own spreadsheet, and do a tally. Let's take a tally of the number of quotes where they're talking about either Latin America or the United States and Canada. So far, I have 3 quotes for Latin America. I have 4 for the US and Canada. So, for example, if Joseph Smith says that there was a Nephite altar at Adamantiaman, I'm going to believe that because he is the prophet. He is, in fact, the head of this dispensation. And I realize that people can record things wrong. They may have misunderstood what he said. I get that. I get that. But I don't just dismiss it outright. I just capture what has been reported to have been said, and I'll just wait and see how things actually go. I don't see any problem myself with the Book of Mormon having taken place across both continents, both North and South America. Um, Anyway, I'm going to talk more about that in just a little bit. But let's take a look at this article first. This is based on a paper that was just published in Nature. This was July 29th of this year, so just a few weeks ago. Over 20,000 pre-colonial earthworks in the Southwest Amazonia. But we're going to read from this article. So here's an example of what they found in the Amazon. And there are some really, really interesting details to this whole story that matches up really nicely with the Nephites. All right, continuing. A civilization that may have once numbered up to 3 million has been uncovered underneath the Amazon rainforest's dense canopy, according to a new study. Researchers used LIDAR, a technology that fires pulses of laser light through the gaps in the forest canopy to map the ground below, to survey more than 4,400 kilometers of the southwestern Amazon basin. The findings were published in Nature. Now, really quick, we better take a look at a map. Here's my Google Earth map. We are talking about the country of Brazil, but specifically the state of Amazonas and the state of Acre or Acre. It's probably Acre. Acre. So these two states right here. So here's South America. And so they are generally in the northwest part of the continent. Okay. The northwest part of South America. And if we compare that to this Book of Mormon conceptual map on BYU Virtual Scriptures, if this is in fact, if the Book of Mormon does in fact describe North and South America, and the narrowed neck of land is basically, Panama in Central America. So if this right here is in fact South America, the place that we're looking at is right about here, right? So let's zoom in a little bit. So this isn't to scale, but it seems like we're looking at this area right here, the land of the Nephites, right? You have Zarahemla up here, Melech, Judea, and so forth. Okay, so let's go back to the article. So that gives us our orientation. Um, Archaeologists now believe the Aquiry civilization, which lived in the region from roughly 600 BC to 850 AD, may have been around 3 times larger than previously expected. At its peak, their society may have numbered 1.25 million to 3 million people. I want to point something out here about the Aquiry. So that's who we're talking about, the Aquiry civilization. That is not a name from their original language. I don't think we even know what their language was, based on some other research I did. As far as I can tell at this moment, we don't have any artifacts and we don't have any writings from the Aquiry. I looked at this article by Archaeology News Online Magazine, which said that the Aquiry name um, was introduced in 2021. So very recent. So it doesn't seem that we have any artifacts. We don't know much about their history. I don't think we don't have any writing, so we don't know what they called themselves, in other words. So they were given the name Aquiry, and I think that was they're named from just a river that's there. And then this lidar, um, what would you call it? This lidar survey uh, that we're talking about took place back in 2024, starting on June 6th. So this is all very recent. I think I have seen other content creators talk about this. I know that I've heard some of them talk about LiDAR, but I don't know if they were talking about LiDAR in Central America or if they were talking about this story. But this is just to show you that this has all happened very recently. So, okay, back to the article. The survey uncovered thousands of geometric patterns built into the earth known as geoglyphs, which take various shapes, including circles and squares, and appear to be connected by straight roads or pathways. Okay, now this is really interesting. These earthworks, the geoglyphs. Let's continue. Quote, based on LiDAR surveys covering 4,500 kilometers squared, we estimate that the entire 183,000 kilometers square Aquiry region may contain approximately 24,000 to 30,000 earthworks, linked by hundreds of roads, revealing a scale of landscape modification previously unimaginable for this part of Amazonia. End quote. So before we continue, as we're talking about earthworks, hopefully you know where I'm going with this. Let's go back to this. So this is a timeline of quotes, but I've decided to also turn it into kind of like a Book of Mormon history timeline and ancient American civilization timeline. Okay, so let's start with this. So you know what I'm talking about. So over here, I have pretty much like depicted the Nephite civilization, the way that with the same method I do for other things on other spreadsheets. So you have the Nephites that approximately started in about 591 BC when Lehi and his family landed in the Americas. The Aquiry civilization we just read started approximately 600 AD, or sorry, BC. So around the same time, you can see that right here. Okay, let's scroll up, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Let's go to 74 BC. I have a couple of scriptures I want to read. Probably not going to read this whole thing, but I'll just give you the gist of it. So, Alma, chapter 48, verse 8. Yea, he had been strengthening the armies of the Nephites and erecting small forts. Keep that in mind. Small forts, or places of resort, throwing up banks of earth round about to enclose his armies. Later on, Alma 49, 2 through 4. And behold, the city had been rebuilt, and Moroni had stationed an army by the borders of the city, and they had cast up dirt round about to shield them from the arrows and the stones of the Lamanites, for behold, they fought with stones and with arrows. And then verse 4. But behold, how great was their disappointment, for behold, the Nephites had dug up a ridge of earth round about them, which was so high that the Lamanites could not cast their stones and their arrows at them. Okay, and then lastly, well, just a couple more. Alma chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. It talks about digging up heaps of earth round about all the cities throughout all the land which was possessed by the Nephites, and then ridges of earth. And then Alma chapter 53, digging a ditch. So in this case, not so much a mound or a heap of dirt around the city or fort, but digging a ditch round about the land or the city of Bountiful. And then later, the inner bank of the ditch, and they cast up dirt out of the ditch against the breastwork of timbers, and you get the idea. So, to me, what we're reading here sounds a lot like the Nephites, what we read in the book of Alma. Continuing. These findings, quote from Marty Parsinen. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. These findings suggest that many other regions across Amazonia may likewise have been far more densely populated and intensively modified than previously assumed, challenging the long-standing view of the rainforest as a largely untouched wilderness. I have this highlighted because, you come across people who are critics of the Book of Mormon, or not even just the Book of Mormon, anything. People who are critics of religion, people who are critics of life after death or whatever, who will say, look, there's nothing in the research to show, in this case, that there ever was a Nephite or a Lamanite civilization. And they make the assumption almost that science is complete, that we have searched every square inch of North and South America and haven't found anything, and so therefore there is nothing. And like I say so many times on this channel, I've never been told that science has been completed, that now there is nothing else to discover. Archaeology, we've figured it all out. And they're talking about a large civilization that they didn't really know existed until now. Now, in the research that I did, I guess what had happened is they found some of these earthworks in the 1970s. I don't know the whole story, but you can see that this civilization didn't get a name until 2021. And then it wasn't until 2024 that they made this really big discovery. So the thing about it is, critics of the Book of Mormon or whatever else, things that are spiritual, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if just one day there's going to be a massive civilization that's found. That's what happened here. I don't know that these are the Nephites, but it's good to review this story because it could be, or this may be how the Nephites and the Lamanites are actually found. Continuing, quote, we will then investigate how their distribution relates to different ecosystems, as well as the locations of the earthworks and ancient road networks. Simply put, one cannot help but to wonder what else remains hidden beneath the forest canopy. Good question. We don't know, but we will sometime, hopefully in the near future. There is another article that I want to take a look at. This is from Smithsonian Magazine. An article by Sarah Kuta, July 31st, 2026. Mysterious shapes hidden beneath the Amazon canopy reveal reveal a sprawling ancient civilization much bigger than researchers expected. There are a few key bits of information that I want to look at here. The civilization known as the Aquiry likely peaked between 100 and 300 CE or AD. That is also a fascinating detail because when we look at the Book of Mormon, I looked at what would be considered the peak of Nephite civilization, which would essentially be from the time that Christ appeared in about 34 AD until things started to fall apart. They started to fall apart in stages. So I guess it depends on how you want to look at it. But I went from when Christ appeared to um, like the first war that's reported after this peak of civilization. Like they started to call themselves Nephites and Lamanites again, and then there was this war. So if you want to go from the appearance of Christ to that war, that would take you from 34 AD, and then here's the peak of the Aquiry, which according to what we just read started about 100 AD. And then the decline of the Nephites started about, it started about the year 200 or 201. But that's when you first started seeing the cracks. So as far as like looking at it from an archaeological perspective, I don't think that they would be like, oh yeah, they started to be prideful. You can tell it with these rocks that were found or these houses. I mean, maybe you could kind of tell that, but archaeologists would probably be like, yeah, they're still doing good. Like they're still materially wealthy and powerful, and they have a robust economic system. So, like I said, I called the final part or the end boundary of the Nephite peak as the war that started in 321 AD. And these are just approximate dates, of course. So this is when that war started. And you can see that the Aquiry peak had ended just 21 years before that. So the peaks of these two civilizations are pretty dang close. All right, let's continue with this article. Um, let's see. We don't need to read that part. Um, quote, the old idea of pristine Amazonia falls apart. Study co-author Alku Ronzi, a geographer of the University of Aquiry, tells Science's Julia Vaz. The Aquiry also built massive geometric earthworks consisting of deep ditches. We just read about a ditch, at least in one case in the Book of Mormon, deep ditches and high outer embankments, which researchers think served as seldom used public, ceremonial, and political centers. Well, in the Book of Mormon, we were reading that they were doing this for at least some of the cities, probably all the cities, but also for small forts. So I don't know. And you have to wonder, maybe like if they were doing it for the cities, maybe in some cases they didn't do it for the entire city, but they did it for like a small like evacuation area. Like, okay, the Lamanites are coming. Let's all get into the fort, the protective area. Maybe sometimes it was like that. I don't know. But all right, continuing. This is from Parsinen. The scale and precision of these constructions are simply astonishing. End quote. So far, archaeologists have discovered roughly 1,700 geoglyphs in the area, but they suspect the region contains far, far more, likely between 23,000 and 30,000. Those figures are much higher than earlier estimates, which suggested the entire Amazon rainforest might contain roughly 10,000 earthworks. The Aquiry geoglyphs appear to have been abandoned for good between 850 and 950 AD. So let's go back to my timeline here. Um, so as far as the Book of Mormon is concerned, the Nephite civilization essentially ended around 421. Although, um, I should have pulled this up. I know that there are some verses that talk about the fact that it's not, I don't think that every single Nephite was killed, because some of them deserted, some of them joined the Lamanites. So I don't know. Um, I'm just wondering, like, as like these different cities and stuff are conquered, um, maybe like most of the Nephites are killed, but then other ones just assimilate into the larger Lamanite culture that's taking over. I don't know. I haven't really looked at this very closely, but whatever the case, the Nephites essentially ending in 421, and then the Aquiry, which may actually be the remnant of the Lamanites and whatever Nephites join them. The Aquiry ending uh, as early as 850, but possibly as late as 950. I probably should have put that on there too. Okay, researchers don't know researchers don't know why for certain, but the available evidence points to a quote unquote relatively rapid collapse. Well, it certainly was for the Nephites, wasn't it? It was a relatively rapid collapse. There's a lot of things that are lining up here, you guys. There are a lot of things lining up. Um, the available evidence points to a relatively rapid collapse, quote unquote, that may be somehow related to the decline of other pre colonial civilizations, including the Maya, uh, Tiwanaku, and Wari civilizations. The researchers were surprised by the scale of the Aquiry civilization, especially because it developed far from major rivers, which historically supported large ancient settlements. And they note that their study area amounts to less than 3% of Amazonia. They think other regions may have had similar population densities, raising the possibility that the Amazon was once home to tens of millions of people before European colonization. Michael Heckenberger, an anthropologist at the University of Florida, who was not involved with the study, says the new Aquiry population estimates are mind-blowing, quote unquote, but also plausible and extremely important. Okay, so yeah, I had to take note of that. I mean, my channel is mostly a Second Coming channel, although we also look at other things like church news, church history, and I mean, this is church history, but this is like ancient church history, and I better keep an eye on this the best that I can, and when I have time, I felt like I needed to call attention to this. Um, Again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Book of Mormon took place all over North and South America, because of this. I think we're gonna end with this. Let's go to Third Nephi, chapter 8. It describes the destruction that came immediately before Christ appeared to them, and it talks about cities sinking into the depths of the sea, and then other places where there was a city and it became a great mountain. The whole face of the land was changed. There was an exceedingly great quake of the whole earth. The highways were broken up, the level roads were spoiled, and many smooth places became rough. And then cities were sunk. The whole earth became deformed. Let's see. The rocks were rent in twain. They were broken. They were broken upon. Sorry, they were broken up upon the face of the whole earth, insomuch that they were found in broken fragments and in seams and in cracks upon all the face of the land. And then it continues. down here. It really emphasizes the fact that there was a lot of change to the earth. So much so that entire cities were drowned. Like, what does it take for that for a city to be, I mean, I guess it's an assumption, but permanently drowned under the ocean or maybe a lake? And so when we're talking about Book of Mormon geography, we don't know the extent to which these two continents changed. What I do know is that at one time, before the days of Peleg in the Bible, all the continents were together. There was one, I guess, supercontinent. And that's what's going to happen when Christ comes um, at his second coming. The continents are once again going to come together. Uh, that flies in the face of what we think we know about geology. So some people, they may struggle with the idea that all of North and South America could be um, involved in Book of Mormon geography. You know, when Joseph Smith says that Adam-ondi-Ahman had a Nephite altar, or he pointed out these different locations. Um, I mean, he's the head of this dispensation. I trust him. And maybe things just played out in a way that we can't conceptualize right now. And maybe it's because our conception of geology is limited. Maybe things changed much more drastically than what we know. So I have no problem with North America, the heartland, Mesoamerica, whatever. I have no problem with all of it being true. And, you know, I don't think anybody has it 100% correct. But anyway, I really like this, though. This whole thing with, you got the land of Zarahemla down here. And in this graphic, anyway, it looks very similar to this area that we're looking at in Brazil and in the Amazon. I think that's pretty amazing. All right. Well, let me see. Let me just make sure. Got all the tabs. Yep. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.